This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it, man, I know it, I know.
How did you come up with the decision to light the Twitter world on fire and challenge my man Perkins to a heads-up battle for, as you put it, souls?
Yeah, I guess that's what the idea of Daniel's and Doug's was heads up for souls. This is obviously a little bit different. I really enjoy doing commentary on it, and I was playing heads up a little bit on WSOP at like 2K and 5K, and it's been a lot of fun kind of learning and studying a new format because I've mostly been a 6-max player. So I thought to myself, oh, like, I want to get in this mix. So we got in the mix.
Sure. So
it was a two-step mastermind process of wanting to get in the mix and then entering the mix.
This reminds me of the underpants gnomes in South Park. It's like, okay, step 1, get underpants. Step 3, profit. There's just like no understanding of what step 2 is here.
Right.
And I think that this is very applicable to you in this sense because you called out a billionaire. You offered him a 9 big blind per 100 spot. He said, okay, at 200, 400, meaning you're giving this guy $750,000. And last I checked, Landon, correct me if I'm wrong, you do not possess $750,000.
As far as we all know, yes.
Okay, so this is likely to be true. So we can't cover the spot, but we are in, baby. We are doing this. We're taking it to the house. We are going to fight on these streets. How does one go about getting from stealing underpants to profit?
Nah.
What is step 2 here?
Yeah, well, basically what ended up happening was I kind of sold action for it to people that really thought that I had the winning side of this. Of course, they probably wouldn't put money down if they didn't think it was a winning proposition.
Of course.
So, yeah, I just sort of figured I knew people that would want to buy action in this and sort of just reached out to them. I was like, hey, this is happening.
Which order did the events occur?
It was the former and then the latter.
Right.
It was not the latter.
So there was a chance you could have had egg on your face. There was a chance that
Yes.
the community would have just thought 9 big blinds per 100, way too big of a spot. We're not investing in this. But ultimately, when the dust settles, you have plenty of people, very talented people,
Yes.
who are willing to put their money where your mouth is
Yeah.
and say, like, yo, I think this kid has a chance.
I think it is extremely difficult to become world class. Right. And not only just study a lot, but like have the intangibles of being able to adjust on the fly and being able to be great. And I'll be the first to say that I'm definitely not at that point yet, and heads up, I'm not even close.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working very hard and going to spend a lot of time from now until the time he and Bill and I play, studying a lot and learning a lot and trying to be as good as I can and make the game as open to me as I can make it, in the sense of playing a strategy that I can be confident in and not lose as much EV on the aggregate.
Sure.
Kind of like the way that Doug did, because Doug basically said that he kind of gave up his entire natural heads-up game in order to learn theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned theory, I just haven't learned a lot of heads-up theory, and it's a lot different than 6-max. And it's very difficult. But it's one of those things where I know that I'm going to work very, very hard, and I have a lot of people that support me in that way, not only through like saying that they support me, but taking my side of this challenge and effectively like putting money up to do that. And I definitely wasn't in a position to do it, but you know, sometimes arrogant Twitter kid makes some decision that might not end up being the greatest decision, as we all probably have at 21. But now we're here, we're live, and we're getting after it.
Doug talked a lot about this, how, you know, rising through the ranks of heads up for him, it was about deciphering your opponent, right? So like you didn't actually work on strategy, you just worked on counter strategy.
Right, you're like, what's this guy doing? How do I exploit that?
Yeah.
But now he's very open about saying like, nah, it's all about the theory, bro.
Right, it's just who works harder at understanding their frequencies and applying them.
Like where poker becomes more of a solved game versus an unsolvable landscape where you're trying to outguess your opponent.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the term solved. I would use the term refined. Reason being is that we still don't have that roadmap to perfect play.
Sure.
We have a glimmer of it.
Yeah.
We kind of have a concept, you know, like a broad meta analysis.
I guess just the idea of what is appeared to be solved and like the ideas of what theory looks like versus just playing a game of, oh, like I'm going to battle this guy. I think this guy makes this mistake here and then capitalize on that.
Yeah.
To where now it's, in his words, like who works the hardest.
Yeah.
Who's making less mistakes on the aggregate than the other person.
It's just all about calibration.
Exactly.
Just give me all of the details around the match that you possibly can.
Okay.
And then let's talk a little bit about like how the public perceives it.
Sure. So what we have ironed out now is we're going to play 20,000 hands, and we're going to start hopefully in June, and kind of depends on some other things. We still have a lot of terms to work out for sure. While we near the deadline, I'm sure we're going to end up doing that. I'm spotting 9 bigs per 100, so at 200, 400, it's 720K for 20,000 hands. And that's basically what we have kind of concrete, and there's going to be no limping and no HUDs.
Okay.
So that's what we have as of now.
Okay, you guys don't like have a set schedule in
Not
place.
yet.
Okay, but there are a lot of provisions that I assume are going to be negotiated.
Right, exactly. Regarding the effective backlash from some, where I'm like, yeah, I'm sure there's people that are my age that are better than me at heads up, and I'm sure there's better poker players than me at my age. I'm sure that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm truly grateful to have the opportunity, and not just in the sense of being able to play, but also be able to have people that support me as well. And I'm truly grateful for that. And that's something that it's unreal to me to kind of come here from like the last time that I was on the vlogcast, where I ended up winning a tournament somehow, and then sort of everything sort of fell into place. But it's definitely, I got really lucky in a lot of spots, in a lot of senses, but I also worked really hard. Like, it's very easy for, I guess, when I just kind of come up into the scene now, for people to kind of see me as like, oh, like arrogant kid, thinks he can get a bunch of money, thinks he can spot 9 big blinds. That's so much in this spot. And it was like very difficult at times when I was playing micro stakes, when I first started playing like 18 months ago. And I remember times like when I dropped out of school, my mom was asking me for rent, and I was like, look, like, just trust me, I promise I'm going to be okay. And it's really hard to overlook the times that like I have put in my hours. Like, I've played over 2 million hands for sure, playing small stakes and micro stakes, and then kind of got lucky and was someone in the community. Like, I did timestamps for Joey. That's kind of how he met me. I remember I started doing timestamps for you as well. And I just sort of thought, like, I want to provide value to people that provide value to me. And I didn't do it through asking for money, and I didn't do it because I thought it would gain me something. I did it because I genuinely cared about what I was watching, and I thought I wanted to be someone that could help out.
The fact of the matter is, like, you know, what you're saying is very relevant. Yes, your career is a flash in the pan at the moment.
Right.
But it's also like kind of backed by a lot of data. It's backed by a lot of hands and things of that nature. And the crazy thing is like, bro, you're only 21. You're just now starting. You're literally just getting started, and you're already around the corner to the point where people were forgetting the process of how you got here.
Right.
And granted, it happened very quickly, but everything you're saying is very relevant, right? Tell me a little bit like what you think about the people who are detracting against you for not having a massive chunk of yourself.
Sure. I mean, everyone sort of sees poker as one of these things where you put your money on the table, and if you go broke, you go broke, and that's like the noble fight, right? I'm sure that's how it worked in the old guard. And even now, like, there's a bunch of people that play higher stakes games that sell pieces of themselves, and it's not as open, because I guess the dream of high stakes poker, of having all of yourself and being, I guess, in their sense of the word, professionalism, is what that is. Mm-hmm. But then there's also some very rare spots, kind of like this one, where maybe, like, obviously if I don't have the role to play, I can't play. So I have to dilute equity in order to have a certain percentage of myself to responsibly not go broke if the worst case scenario happens.
Right.
And it doesn't just happen in something like this. It also happens in MTTs for sure. And just in a very higher variance game.
Yeah.
Where it's very easy to dust a bunch of bullets in MTTs. It's very easy to go on downswings in MTTs. So poker players, in some cases, some obviously have all of themselves, and that's fine. But I don't think it detracts from the overall professionalism of the game. Like, the way I see professionalism is taking risks that make sense for your overall bankroll, to where you don't necessarily are out of action for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like you're operating a business, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of diluting equity is not foreign.
Right.
If you're running a startup and you need more capital, you bring in an investor.
Right.
Period. Right. You know, I
Right.
thought Pads had a really good tweet whenever he said that, you know, when Ivy, Negreanu, and the corporation went after Andy Bill, they were revered as poker heroes.
Right.
Chopping up a billionaire.
And I guess for them, I understand it because they've been in poker for a while and they had, I guess, a legacy. And for me, my legacy has just begun, so to speak. It's like, why does this kid get a chance over others?
But we've seen it elsewhere. We saw Rayner when he won the Super High Roller Bowl in 2016. Rumors were floating around that he had somewhere between 3 and 10% of himself. You know,
Right.
and that's not something he played the Colossus the next day.
Right.
Right? Like it's his job. He's just doing his job.
Exactly.
And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Sure, it sucks to only make $500,000 on the biggest score of your life when you win $5 million.
Right.
But like, what are you gonna do?
And at the end of the day, if you're not ruled for it responsibly, you don't get to play in the first place. You would effectively be out of action.
Right.
So for me, this is one of those spots where it's like, okay, I think I can sell action at this price. I ended up doing that extremely quickly and extremely grateful for it. And I also have a percentage of myself that makes sense for me and gives incentive for me to try as hard as I can, as I would regardless.
Yep.
As well as be able to put on a show on the grand stage, so to speak, and play 200, 400 and just have an experience that I know I'm going to look back and be like, wow, like I can't believe this actually happened when I was 21.
Right.